Greetings, prospective harp students, and most likely parents. This is James, and I put together a brief introductory video to help you navigate the world of the harp. This PowerPoint and video presentation will talk about the difference between a lever and pedal harp, where to find them, and frequently asked questions. So let's go ahead and get started. So a couple of things about the difference between a lever and a pedal harp. A lever harp, of course, as the name implies, has levers, as does the pedal harp. Pedal harp has pedals. So what that means specifically is the mechanism that's used in order to produce various changes to the pitch of any given string, whether you're using a lever, such as in the case of a lever harp, or you're using a pedal. So a lever harp has a series of levers that run along the left-hand side of the neck. And there's a couple terms that are interchangeable, whether you see a lever harp referred to as a Celtic or a non-pedal harp or a folk harp or an Irish harp. All of them more or less mean the same thing, in that the pitches of the strings are changed and manipulated by way of actual levers. Some reputable companies that make professional quality lever harps include Lyon & Healy, Salve, Swanson, Dusty Strings, William Rees, Thormelin, Triplet, and Kamek. So most harps, all harps, will have a triangular shape. There's going to be the column, there's the sound box, of course, and then the actual neck. So if you see, you can't really see it in too fine detail, but along the left-hand side of the neck, there are levers that change the pitch of the string. So with a lever harp, what ends up happening is that the lever will raise the pitch of a string by a half step. So there's a number of different sharpening levers that are available to you. There's Loveland, there's Kamek, Truett performance levers, and then Robinson levers. Like I said, the levers of the harp do raise the pitch of the string one half step. And initially, it's best to tune the harp diatonically to C major when students are just beginning their harp journey. And then as they progress and require more keys, it's usually recommended that they ultimately tune their harp to E flat major or potentially A flat major, depending on their preference. So if you don't know the difference between a half step and a whole step, allow me to elaborate briefly. So when we're talking about changes in raising a pitch, what we're referring to is this concept and idea of half steps versus whole steps. Non-Western cultures have many more steps than we recognize in the Western world, which is merely the half step and whole step. So when we're talking about a half step, what we're talking about is raising or lowering the pitch of something by one half step. So for instance, if we were to start on the white piano key of C and then go to C sharp, we've only moved one instance. Therefore, it's going to be a half step. Versus a whole step, if we were to move from the white key from C all the way to D, we would have to pass through the C sharp that's right there and then ultimately end up in D. So we end up with two half steps put together. Of course, there's the first one right there in the black key and then the second one on D. Therefore, it's a whole step. So what a lever harp does, it enables you to change the pitch of a string, of course, by one half step. So hopefully that makes sense to you. So the different sharpening levers that you have available to you, there's Loveland levers, which originally were the industry standard. They're made from a durable Delrin material. They're very smooth. They allow for rapid changes. They have red and blue dots on the C and F levers. You can see them briefly right there. Very popular. They're also very durable. They can take a bit of a beating, so to speak. So they're quite durable. Kamek levers, on the other hand, are quickly becoming the industry standard for lever harps that are being made, and produced currently, especially any kind of custom-made lever harps. The go-to creme de la creme, so to speak, is Kamek levers. They're nickel-plated, solid metal. They're very smooth, very quiet, and they're teardrop-shaped levers. They're very comfortable to use and play. They have metallic red and blue wraps for the C and F strings respectively. Very nice. Like I said, quickly becoming the industry standard and the go-to levers for the superior sharpening ability. Very smooth, very quiet, really easy to use and easy on the fingers. Truett levers, on the other hand, are gold-plated brass and very smooth. However, the difference with Truett, of course, aside from the cost, is that rather than having different colors on the C and F levers, the lever itself is shaped differently. The C and F levers have a heart shape, while the remainder of them are round. So it's a little difficult to discern which lever you're reaching for, especially if you have a flurry of notes and you need a lever change quickly. They are more expensive because of the gold plating. I've had students use Truett, I've had students use chemic levers, and honestly, I honestly think chemic levers are better, but if the harp you happen to purchase comes with Truett, or you purchase a second-hand harp that has Truett levers, they're still quality levers, so don't feel left out or bad because of it. Performance levers are brass levers that are coated in Teflon, very smooth and effortless to use. They're used on all Lane and Healy and Salvi lever harps. Robinson levers, on the other hand, are brass levers. They're less comfortable than Loveland or Camic or Truett because of how you have to produce the sharp. They're very crude in their design. They're very minimalistic, very simplistic. So as a direct result, of course, they're not as expensive as other sharpening levers on the market. So it is a nice way to keep the cost down. So if you are budget conscious and you're trying to make sure that you are not spending a fortune on your harp, Robinson levers are nice to start your journey on. I would not recommend them for after a year or two of study. I would switch to something else. So lever harps have their advantages and disadvantages. So some of the advantages, of course, they're much smaller, they're much more portable than full-size harps. Some might argue that the limited string range potentially limits the repertoire that you are able to play. That's certainly true for the lower end of the string range. If you have a harp that has 26 strings, usually it will go down to a C below middle C. So, in that regard, you won't have any of the bass notes that you would have with a larger harp. So depending on the strings that you get, you might be limited as far as the repertoire that you could play. Some of the other advantages is that they're much more affordable. But the cool thing about it is that you can customize your sharpening lever preference. You can purchase a lever harp with no levers. You could purchase it with C and F levers. You can purchase it with C, F, and B levers. So really, you have the ability to, pretty much build a harp according to your budget and what you can afford. Disadvantage, of course, which you'll see in a moment, is that some genres of music require a pedal harp because of the limitations that are granted to you by a lever harp. So remember I said that the levers will enable you to change the pitch of a string and raise it 1/2 step. So what that means is if you purchase a harp in the very beginning with no levers, the keys that you'll be able to play in, which if you're not familiar, this is the circle of fifths. This represents all available keys that you have at your disposal. But if you have a lever harp that has no sharpening levers on it whatsoever, the only key you'll be able to play in is C major or its relative minor, which is A minor. If you encounter pieces that have accidentals, or if you want to play in a key such as G major or D major, then you'd have to go through and retune those particular strings. But the whole goal, of course, is to spend as little time tuning as possible. So just understand, the limitations if you purchase a harp that has no levers. If you purchase a harp that has levers on C and F strings, then you're able to play in C major, the red box, and then you're also able to play in G major and D major, the keys found in the green box. So you get a little bit more options to choose from. If your lever harp has levers on C, F, and B strings. You're able to play in all of the prior boxes with the addition of the purple box, which is F major. So once again, we get even more options. If you purchase your harp and it's fully levered, wherein you have levers on every string, depending on how you tune the harp, you'll have much greater flexibility in the keys that you can play in. If you were to tune your harp to E flat major, then you would have the availability of all the keys within the blue boxes. You see you would have a great increase in the number of keys. You'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, an additional 4 keys that you'd be able to play in. If you happen to tune your harp, if you'd like, to A flat major, you would lose the ability to play in E major, but of course you would gain the ability to play in A flat major. So it really depends on your preference, but standard tried and true method for tuning your harp for most people is tuning it in E flat major. So just a heads up. Most students, if they plan on moving up to a pedal harp, it's a good idea to get a lever harp that has pedal harp stringing and spacing and tension. So it's a good idea to look at the various models that are on the market to make sure that you're not having to adjust and spend too much time adjusting to your new normal. It's nothing horrible. It doesn't take that long to adjust. However, if you do intend on moving up and you know for certain that you'll be moving up to a pedal harp, it's a good idea to start on something that has concert harp tension and spacing. So pedal harps, of course, they get the name from the pedals that are along the bottom of the harp and the pedestal. It's often referred to as concert harp or orchestral harp, or more specifically, the double action pedal harp. All the names are interchangeable. The pedal harp has 7 pedals, 3 for the left foot and 4 for the right foot. More on that later. So pedal harps come in various sizes, much like other string instruments, with especially violin, cello, and bass. How they come in a quarter, half, 3/4, and full. The harp is really no different. Pedal harps will come in 40 string, 44 strings, 46 strings, and 47 strings. And these are the various makers that you'll find producing quality pedal harps: Lyon and Healy, Salve, Venus, Swanson, and Kamek. So it's different. Let me get rid of this. It's different from a lever harp because, of course, remember, the mechanism that you would use to change the pitch of the string would be on the neck, and you'd be required to flip it. So they kept the same idea and concept, but rather they put pedals at the bottom. So what happens when you go to change the pitch of a string, you'll engage the pedal at the bottom, which is right here, and then rods run up the column, and then there's mechanisms on the neck that will ultimately end up pinching the string and raising it, either a half step or an entire whole step. More on that in a moment. So remember, I said there's 7 pedals found on a pedal harp. There's 3 for the left foot and then 4 for the right foot. And the more specific, accurate name for the pedal harp is the double action pedal harp, because if you see the diagram on your right, you'll see that there's various notches that you can use. So when the pedal is in the uppermost position, that's going to be the flat position. So that's where there's nothing engaging the string. The string is open, so to speak. There's nothing crimping it. There's nothing pinching it. The string is flat. The middle notch is known as the natural position. So when you move from the flat to the natural position, you're changing the pitch of the string and raising it by a half step. And then the lowermost notch on the very bottom is the sharp notch. So what happens when we're going from all the way from flat, natural to sharp? Of course, when you go from the uppermost position to the very most bottom one, you're changing the pitch of the string an entire whole step. So really, really ingenious design in that regard. So 40-string pedal harps are generally referred to as petite harps or 3/4 size harps. They're usually about 65 inches tall. You can find them by Lyon and Healy, Salve, Venus. 40-string harps are really nice. However, I prefer the 44-string pedal harp, which is sometimes called as a grand petite. I like grand petite or 44-string pedal harps because the number of strings at your disposal is very equivalent and well within reach of a lot of repertoire. So for most students that wish to play pedal harp repertoire and they have no aspirations or no ultimate goals of becoming an orchestral harpist, a 44-string harp is much very appropriate, if you will. You can find them being made by Light and Healy, Salvi, Venus, and Kamek. 46-string pedal harps are called semi-grand harps, and very popular by freelancers for their portable size, for their range. You have quite the expansive range. They're not as tall, they're not as heavy, easier to move, so a lot of freelancers will use them for their gig work. They are capable of orchestral playing, and a lot of teachers will use them in their studios for teaching. You can find them being made by Light and Healy, Salvi, Venus, and Kamek. The 47-string pedal harp is the concert grand harp. It's the largest harp available to harpists, with the exception of the newest addition to the Salvi line, whose name escapes me at the moment. The model name escapes me, but it has a whopping 49 strings. So the standard garden variety concert harp has 47 strings. It has 6.5 octave range, and it's anywhere from 73 to 75 inches tall, and roughly about anywhere from 75 to 85 pounds. You can find them being made by Light and Healy, Salvi, Venus, Swanson, Kamek. So when we're talking about ranges, a petite pedal harp will generally have a range of the contra A all the way up to the E that's listed there. Grand petite harps, depending on the brand, whether it's Kamek, it will start on the contra F and then go up, versus other makers like Light and Healy will start on the contra D. So depending on the repertoire that you're looking at, like I said, grand petites are really nice because they give you the greatest flexibility of notes. Semi-grand harps will have a range running from the contra D all the way up to the top G, and then concert grand harps, of course, will be starting on contra C and then running all the way up to the uppermost G. So Light and Healy was founded in Chicago in 1864. It's recognized the world over as the quote-unquote typical harp sound. It's what people have come to become, that's what they've become accustomed to for orchestral settings. Light and Healy offers a bevy of rental programs, rent-to-own options, and bounty programs that are available. They also offer quite an impressive listings of certified pre-owned instruments that are very reasonable and come with a warranty. Salvi harps, on the other hand, Salvi was founded in 1954 in Italy, and they use a different material for their soundboard as opposed to Sitka spruce that Light and Healy often uses. So it results in a much more warmer and richer sound than Light and Healy. They are generally heavier than Light and Healy harps by about 10 pounds. So that's the only drawback to Salvi harps, is that they can become quite heavy. So if you're of slight build or you need help moving your harp, Salvi might not be the way to go. They do have distributors in Northern America, and we'll talk about that later. I'm quite fond of Salvi harps. I really enjoy their sound, and a number of the tracks that are on my website, which are listed right there, feature a Salvi Diana. Venus harps are interesting because they're no longer being mass produced. I believe if you offer them enough money, they're still taking special orders on an individual basis, but they are no longer being mass produced. They came about in the early 70s, located in Chicago, and quite frankly, they're knockoffs of Light and Healy harps. They produce only pedal harps, and they're quite large. Concert grands are incredibly large, incredibly heavy, but they are very economical. So for folks that are looking for a pedal harp that might not have a lot of money to spend, Venus harps do fill the niche of offering the instrument at an introductory price, but do be cautious of the quality. Swanson pedal and lever harps started in the early 80s in Boston, Massachusetts by Carl Swanson. They're often praised for their lightweight feel, their even tone, and their responsive touch. I've played on a handful of Swansons, and they are nice. They are easier to move, very lightweight. So some of the distributors that you'll find, there's the Harp Connection, which is founded in the early 90s in Salem, Massachusetts. They're a distributor for Lane and Healy and Salvi harps, as well as a variety of lever harps. Harps Unlimited International, they have a number of locations around the U.S. To rent harps, to purchase harps, so they're worth a look. Lane and Healy West is the accessories division of Lane and Healy. Lane and Healy Harp Sales is specifically in Chicago, and then their accessories division for music, strings, and any harp-related accessories is located in Salt Lake City, Utah. Vanderbilt Music is a distributor for Lane and Healy and Salvi pedal harps, and they're located in Bloomington, Indiana. They also have a number of harp accessories, including music stands, benches, etc. They're very, very prompt in their turnaround time. I use Vanderbilt exclusively for a lot of my harp needs. They're very quick. You can pay standard shipping and usually get it within 1 to 2 days after placing your order. So, interesting thing, when you first get a harp, if it's brand new, you'll spend a great deal of time tuning it. You'll have to spend a number of days and weeks getting the harp up to pitch. The interesting thing about the harp is that it's much more forgiving for beginners. So unlike other instruments like an oboe or a violin where a beginner is learning to play and it sounds quite screechy and not fun, harp is nice because it's very pleasing. So it's really difficult to get a really bad tone on the harp that's really considered quote unquote not pleasing. So the harp is really forgiving in that regard. You're never too old to take lessons. Oftentimes I'll have a number of students that start later in life because of course they have the money, they're stable, and they have the extra spending money to invest in harps. So you're never too old. You should be tuning your harp every day, or at least every other day when you sit down to play. You can get a number of strings and music from any of the companies listed prior, whether it's Vanderbilt or International Music or Lane and Healy West. Like I said, my preference is Vanderbilt Music Company. If you're looking at which harps to buy, honestly, the best advice that I can give you is to spend and purchase the harp, get the most amount of strings and levers or pedals that you can afford, because you never know when you'll be able to upgrade later. So get the most harp that you can afford at the current time. And harps are expensive, but you have to remember they're usually handmade. They're going to be hand carved, especially in the case of pedal harps. They take anywhere from 6 to 9 months to be fully built. So very, very, very intricate, a lot of moving parts for the actual instruments. So, unfortunately, it's not as inexpensive as, say, I don't know, flute or recorder or violin, but initially harps can be quite expensive, but there are alternatives that you can look into so that you're not breaking the bank, so to speak, when you start. So hopefully that was helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to shoot me an email, james@centralohioharpist.com. I'm happy to chat with you about your potential options, and I wish you well on your harp journey.